They say blood is thicker than water. But what happens when greed runs deeper than love? Before we dive into this story, kindly comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Harold Thompson was 68 years old, a quiet, humble man who lived in a modest suburban home in America. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't luxurious. But to him, it was everything. That house held memories. Memories of laughter. Memories of struggle. And most importantly, memories of his late wife. Every corner of that home reminded him of her. The kitchen where she used to cook. The living room where they spent quiet evenings together. The garden they built side by side. After she passed away, that house became the only thing keeping Harold emotionally grounded. But Harold wasn't alone. He had two sons. Michael, the older one, was a successful businessman. Sharp suits, expensive cars, a life built on ambition and money. Then there was David, the younger son. David didn't have much money. He worked a simple job, lived a modest life, but he had something Michael didn't. Time. David visited his father every weekend. He fixed things around the house, helped with groceries, sat and listened to old stories he had heard 100 times before. To David, it wasn't a burden. It was love. Michael, on the other hand, rarely came around. When he did, it was quick. A short visit. A phone constantly ringing. Always in a hurry. "Dad, I've got a meeting," he would say. "I'll come back another time." But that another time rarely came. One evening, as Harold sat on his porch watching the sunset, David joined him. "You okay, Dad?" David asked softly. Harold smiled. "I'm all right, just thinking about your mother." David nodded. "She'd be proud of you." Harold looked at him and said quietly, "She'd be proud of you too, for staying." That night, Michael didn't call. He didn't text. He didn't even know his father had been thinking about him. Then one morning, everything changed. Harold collapsed in the kitchen. By the time David arrived at the hospital, doctors were already working on him. Michael showed up shortly after, adjusting his suit, clearly frustrated. "What happened?" he asked. "His heart," David replied. "It's serious." The doctor soon came out with a grave expression. "We've stabilized him," the doctor said. "But his condition is critical. He'll need constant care." David's eyes filled with worry. Michael's mind started calculating. Later that evening, as Harold lay weak in his hospital bed, Michael stepped outside and made a call. "I need to meet," he said. "It's urgent." The next day, Michael sat across from a lawyer in a sleek office. "I want control over my father's assets," Michael said bluntly. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about power of attorney." Michael nodded. "He's not in a good state. I need to manage things." The lawyer leaned forward. "Does he trust you?" Michael smirked slightly. "Of course he does." Back at the hospital, Harold was weak, vulnerable, and trusting. Michael walked in with papers in hand. "Dad," he said gently, "this is just paperwork, so I can help take care of everything while you recover." Harold looked at him, tired but trusting. "If it helps, then okay." David, standing nearby, frowned. "What is that?" he asked. "Just legal stuff," Michael replied quickly. "Relax." Harold signed. And in that moment, everything changed. A few days later, David drove past the house and froze. A large sign stood in the front yard. "For sale." He slammed the brakes and jumped out of the car. "What is this?" he shouted as Michael stepped out of the house. "I sold it," Michael said calmly. David stared at him in disbelief. "You what?" "It's just a house," Michael replied. "We'll split the money." "It's the smart move." David's voice shook with anger. "That's not just a house. That's Dad's home. That's Mom's memory." Michael shrugged. "It's an asset. And now it's liquid." David clenched his fists. "You had no right." "I had every right," Michael said coldly. He signed the papers. Days later, Harold was discharged from the hospital. As David drove him home, Harold smiled faintly. "I can't wait to sit in my chair again," he said. But when they arrived, everything was gone. Strangers were carrying furniture out of the house. Harold's smile faded. What is this?" he whispered. David struggled to speak. "Dad, the house." Harold's voice trembled. "Where am I supposed to go?" That night, Harold stayed with David in a small, cramped apartment. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't spacious. But it was filled with something the big house no longer had. Care. David cooked for him, helped him walk, sat beside him through sleepless nights. Meanwhile, Michael moved on. A new house, a better car, a more luxurious life. He told himself it was worth it. Until one afternoon, there was a knock on his door. A lawyer stood there. "We need to talk," she said. Michael sighed. "What now?" She handed him documents. "There's an issue with the property you sold." Michael frowned. "What issue?" The lawyer looked him straight in the eye. "The house was never legally yours to sell." Silence. "What are you talking about?" Michael snapped. "Your father placed the house in a trust years ago, after your mother passed." Michael's face went pale. "And according to that trust," she continued, "the property belongs to David." Michael's world collapsed in that moment. The sale was reversed. The buyer sued. The money was gone. Within weeks, everything he built started falling apart. His accounts were frozen. His assets were seized. The life he traded his family for vanished. Desperate, broken, he went to David's apartment. He knocked slowly. David opened the door. Michael looked nothing like the confident man he once was. "I lost everything," he said quietly. "I need your help." David stared at him. "When Dad needed you," he said slowly, "you sold him." Michael lowered his head. For the first time, he had nothing to say. David sighed. "I won't be like you," he said. And even after everything, he let him in. Because that's what family is supposed to be. But some lessons come too late. Money can buy comfort, but it can never replace loyalty. Betray your family, and you may lose far more than you ever gained. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories.